Well, thank you, y'all. Thanks for doing this. This is like really fun. I was telling Leah and Hunter, do you want to come to Houston? And they were like, yeah, for what? And I was like, I don't even know, but it's going to be great. We've never been invited to a writer's lunch before. This feels very, very tax deductible. So actually, I'm really happy that we get to. I was so glad that you were up for this topic because it's not one I've gotten to do a lot. I've done it for a few churches and things, but mostly writers. We want to talk about how do you write more gooder and all that. But this is something that's been much on my mind, y'all. And if you don't mind, I'd like to give you like a quick 5 or 10 minute how did this come to sound like a good idea origin story, and then I would really like to hear your thoughts because this is something I think a lot more I would really like to help a lot more people, like in the self-help, not just with the toenail chewing, but like bigger picture. So the short story is I started an organization called Word, which is writers organizations around Dallas, and started this life as like a listing directory for various different writers groups that we have up in North Texas. It kind of took on a life of its own, and we started doing some tentpole events, some bigger events. The one that has really taken off is Writers in the Field. Has anybody gone to that or heard of it yet? Don't worry, it's still super underground. But the short story with Writers in the Field is we have a 16-acre farm just south of Dallas, and once a year we do a weekend event, second weekend in October, called Writers in the Field. And the whole idea is that you go out and you can do the things that you're writing about. So you can tack up the horses, shoot bows and arrows, pick locks, work a crime scene, try on Victorian corsetry, shoot a musket. We had the forensics ladies from the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office who buried some human remains for us to dig. Business, like crazy business, right? So I brought, it's a really fun, man. And so I brought some pictures from our first year. We did winemaking, and we had the horses. There's a TARDIS out there on the grounds. We didn't put it there, it's just there. But we got to do like really, really fun stuff. I'm super excited. We cut the heads off the champagne with the saber, like things like you do. Anyway, so I was really excited about this. Like this year, you can make your own makeup. We've got an archaeological dig. That's what I'm excited about. Is it felt really special to me, this event, because I didn't see anything like that anywhere else. And we try to keep it to like $60 or $70 for a weekend pass because we really want to make that kind of education accessible and affordable for people who can't afford to travel halfway around the world to go do their homework, out in Turkmenistan. So we did our first year. It was great. And we this is for real. Let's do it again. So last year we're we're going to do it again. We're going to do it really good this time. We had like our hacking expert. We did bombs, alarms, and security systems. We did we had all this great. We had a police guy that was going to come out with his big police truck and show us all this cool gear. And you know how announcing your plans is a good way to hear God laugh?
Sorry.
Yeah. Or at least a good way to hear Shannon laugh, which is just about the same thing. Oh man, he busted a gut all over us. We got a foot of rain in 24 hours. We got it was just disaster upon disaster. The whole field was flooded. That we would have still been okay, except that the food truck fell in a ditch on the way in and blocked the entrance. So no riders, nobody could get into the grounds to park. And honestly, there was a moment that was really the closest I'd gotten to if people can't get in, we can't put on a show. And if we can't put on a show, we got to issue $8,000 worth of refunds, and we're going to be broke. I mean, this is it. Game over. It's like the alien monologue with Hicks. It's this is it. We're some real finished shit now, man. Game over. And the most amazing thing happened. We're in this monsoon deluge, and a little writer comes up to the ticket booth, right where we're trying to figure out how to file for bankruptcy and try to Google that. And this little writer comes up and it's like, "Hello, is this where we check in?" And I'm like, "Yes, but how did you get here?" And then another one came, and then 2 more, and then 4 more, and it turned out they were parking at the oil pad that around the corner and hiking a 1/4 mile in through the muck. I mean, through and they were ready. They had their brand new, never been used galoshes on, and they were ready to have a time.
Just thrown it into the advertising.
I know. Well, and now this year with those photos, yeah. And they had, so like a lot of our acts had to, like the police truck could not get in because it was just too much muck. The horses couldn't make it up because it was not safe to bring them in. So some stuff we couldn't run, but a lot of things we just, like, they made their, like, we were able to get most of the program done, and they made their own fun. Like they were starting to take mud selfies. Like every time somebody fell in the mud and got back up, they were like, and then when the tornado hit, we got like it was ridiculous. Like at the ticket booth, and then there was a flash of lightning, and Catherine McClatchy, who has the light sensitivity, went down, boom, because she got flashed by lightning. And then the tornado sirens went off, and then we were like, okay, we got to get to the meat hall. Come on. And Catherine's like, leave me here. I was like, Catherine, I'm not leaving you to get tornadoed. You're coming, So bringing her and her service dog, and everybody's running to the meat hall, and it's like, okay, we can handle this. We're all safe. We're here. This is now a networking session.
You can't promise a tornado for every year, right?
No, and right, and as soon as the tornado siren ended, like the margarita machine was delivered. So it's just like incredible. And so I spent that entire weekend. I learned so many things. I learned that you can use doubled grocery bags to keep your socks dry if you really need to. I learned that you can push cars out of the mud. There's a way to do that makes it more successful. I learned that this was the big revelation. I was so paranoid because I was so afraid that we couldn't deliver the experience we had promised. And what I came to realize after watching them, like take mud selfies and, go and play in the rain and just do all these things that we had never intended them, experiences we'd never intended them to have, I realized that my job was never to dictate what sort of experience people would have at an event. Because you can't. You can't. My job was to craft a space where new experiences were possible, where somebody was able to have a new thing happen to them or able to decide and do a new thing. And the thing that I've been taking from that, I got a book after all that went out. Have you guys heard of this guy, James Clear, who does Atomic Habits? Yeah, this man. Yeah. So this guy, he's talking about, like, basically his whole book, he's a productivity guru. He's this business guy. And his whole shtick is, how do we do better? How do we use the things that our brain is already inclined to do to make it easy to do the right thing? Whether it's breaking a bad habit or building up a good one. And he talks so much about environment in this. I was really impressed that he would talk so much about how, like, in Vietnam, they were so concerned because a lot of the soldiers were getting addicted to heroin. And they're like, what is going to happen when these guys get back stateside? We're going to bring home, platoons full of drug addicts. And it was incredible to see how 92% of the soldiers who had used heroin in Vietnam never used it. Didn't use it again within 5 years of coming back to the States. It was like the change of environment was so radical. It broke what was one of the most pervasive drug addictions, just because they were in a completely different place with completely different people. And I was so I guess thinking about the big events, I'm interested. The thing I was hoping we could think about together is, what do we need? How do we create an environment where it is possible for us to be our most successful selves? Since this is a writers group, we can always start by thinking about how do we craft an environment that helps us be more successful and consistent in our writing. I'm happy to take that a different direction if we want to, kind of go farther afield in a little bit. But I'd love to hear what your experience with that has been. What your experience has been. So, what has been successful for you in crafting a consistently productive place for yourself to do your best work?
I can't work at home.
Not at home.
Can't write at home.
Okay.
I have tried for years to be. I'm on a desk. I set up the area, and it turns out the biggest problem with me being a writer was I was trying to write at home. All I had to do was go to the coffee shop. Mm-hmm. And there, when I got bored after 45 minutes of looking at my stuff, I could turn to the person next to me and say, I wrote something. I think it's funny or interesting. Mm-hmm. Would you like to read it? And just see. And this may sound.
You're that guy. You're that guy.
This may sound weird, but I've gotten so much good feedback feedback. I've made friends. I've thrown game nights with 15 people I've met in coffee shops, coming over to play Words with Friends, or Cards Against Humanity, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Cards Against Humanity, having great times, and actually writing has become a social experience for me. Because
That's cool.
I had this idea that we had to be alone doing this, that nobody was interested in reading, and that getting someone to read your work was going to be hard and difficult. And the truth is that if you like making friends and you're genuinely trying to entertain people, and you meet the right kind of people, and you talk to them, you're going to find people that enjoy reading what you write, and it's going to energize you to write more because you're already writing for the audience around you.
Mm-hmm. I think, has anybody else had that experience where you're more productive someplace that's not your home space?
I do something similar to that. I have a map in my car of our galactic supercluster, and my hobby is going into a Whataburger and ordering lunch and sitting down with somebody at the table. Do you mind if I sit here? And then starting up a conversation about our galactic supercluster and the scale and what's going on.
Pardon me, sir. Do you have a moment to talk about the Milky Way?
No. The entire Milky Way galaxy on my map is too small to see. The entire Milky Way galaxy is at the very center of my map and is too small to see. We're so far beyond that, you can't even imagine. Anyway, I get some very interesting discussions and good writing material.
Wow.
I know it's an unusual hobby, but
so if we can just
I think I invented it.
So if we just kick down some of the traditional social boundaries, then we can get some amazing results.
Someday you're going to park yourself next to someone like Katie Bowman, who just did the mathematical equation to
I know her.
photograph.
I know her, yeah.
You know her personally? That'd be
No, I
awesome.
know her. I bet I know her.
That's good. You're going to sit next to the right person, and
Well,
y'all
say,
are going to
and-
be like neck deep in M87.
Right.
And
Yeah, and M87's on my map.
of course it is.
Of course, because it's really the biggest galaxy around. The black hole at the center of M87 has more mass than the entire Milky Way galaxy, which is too small to see on my.
It feels like there ought to be
And
a
its
your mom joke in there
diameter's
somewhere.
Its diameter's like 4 or 5 light years, and diameter's bigger than our solar system. The black hole is bigger.
I like that map when I'm thinking about how much more weight I need to lose.
I know, right?
With this, if the entire Milky Way galaxy is too small to see, imagine you.
Yeah.
You're not even.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what?
Exactly.
And weirdly enough,
Oh, no,
it's a
I
family
know. I'm
portrait
visible
for our
about it.
species, but we're just so far in the back you can't see
There
us.
you go.
Right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
We're all there.
Yeah.
We're all there.
I hadn't
Yeah.
thought about that.
I just put in earphones and I write. I don't go to talk to people.
Well, and Chantel, you bring up a good point, which is okay. So the earphones, right? Back when I was one of my first jobs out of college was I did SAT and ACT tutoring for kids, and we had to talk about study habits. And the poor darlings, I mean, especially these days, they're taking killer classes, and they got all these extracurriculars, and they're on the team or the sports, whatever, and they're supposed to be studying for this test. They're chronically sleep deprived. They really need all the help they can get. And so we have a talk about, like, okay, where are you not going to study? It's like, well, your bedroom. Because what else do you do in the bedroom? Like all the other stuff that's not studying.
Sleep.
But the idea of having a thing that you have with you, like a portable, like your earphones, right? Even if you're not listening to anything, one of the things that James Clear talks about that he says, parts of your environment are portable. He says, like, for him, he says, the way I know I'm actually going to go work out and not just talk a good game, but then sit at home and eat Indian food leftovers, he says, if I put my workout clothes on, it's happening. I just got to get the clothes on, and then I'm launched. I'm going. And I realized, I was like, oh, yeah, like, whenever I'm supposed to, like, clean the kitchens or do housework, I'll always put my hair up. Like, it's almost like I can't do it unless I got the ponytail thing, because it feels wrong to have my hair down in my face when I'm doing dishes or whatnot. And so I think that especially when we travel and you don't get to go to your usual coffee shop or your usual, especially when you're outside of your routine, I bet it'd be really useful to have something like that you could take with you. So even when you're visiting family or you're out in the great beyond or whatever, there's a part of your routine that comes with you. So anywhere you happen to wash ashore, that it kind of puts you in that
It
zone.
was a bad habit from high school. I couldn't study without Metallica. So now I just need some.
James Scott Bell, he has a backdrop for his computer, and his wallpaper is his favorite cafe to write at. And there's some internet channel you can listen to that's cafe noise.
Yeah.
So wherever he is, he's in his cafe where he wrote
Wow.
his most
You could
best-selling
use that.
work.
That's cool.
Cafe noise.
And the other thing about about this is that I took a laptop and I only use it for writing. that is it.
Yeah.
That is it.
Yeah.
It is not a Reddit thing. It is not a dig. It is not an exploit. It is my phone. I can play big games on.
Yeah.
My laptop is solely for writing.
Yeah.
So the moment I bring this with me,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's true.
And I've separated it. Yeah.
I don't have any social media access like that on my computer that I write with.
No social media, no Facebook, no emails. This is just a tool for writing and internet research. If I'm clicking a tab, it is related to writing.
Yeah.
I had to change mine up and do it handwritten, like because I'd get off on a tangent or want to research or whatever. But I found that transcribing, trying to exactly transcribe, but finding all the little mistakes between handwritten and on a computer totally helped me as well.
Actually, I don't do an outline without handwriting. If
Yeah.
you're going to do an outline, you want to get the big picture, you need paper. For me.
Yeah.
And so outline, I did handwrite outlines.
You know,
and then
the different means of getting it on paper in the first place stimulate different parts of your brain.
Right.
And so they say if you ever have writer's block, go from writing on your computer to writing by hand and even switching hands because you're stimulating a part of your brain you don't typically do. And you'll actually hear different voices. So if you're trying to have two characters with distinctly different voices, just switching up how you write them, like the physical nature of how you write them, changes their voice.
I will give you guys one experience that I was really surprised to discover stopped working for me. I used to think that I could only get inspired to write being with other writers. Stopped inspiring me.
Yeah.
Being out and selling my books and being around readers, that's what's re-sparking or rejuvenating my interest in what I do.
Like directly.
Like you do,
Your
you're
audience.
conversing with people who are just,
I've had 300 and some people read my drafts
yeah.
Yeah.
before I've published anything on this, so I know, and I can tell. I asked them, how far did you get into this? Did you like it? Which parts didn't you like? And so I've got feedback in an audience right away when this book is published. Just starting off, I've got 300 emails of people that have agreed to read my book. All I have to do is hit enter.
Yeah.
But do you find that getting that many opinions in the initial draft stage changes your goal, your idea, your dream of what that project is?
My project is to reach readers with humor and make it as entertaining as possible. And so I have to take the feedback of people that I know are going to be in my target audience.
Yeah, I think what you're doing lends itself to your genre.
Yes.
I don't think it would work for like fantasy.
It would be harder.
It would make
on
me
certain genres.
Everybody wants something different.
Don't read my first draft. No.
So I would say something for critique groups because that's really been a big part of me being able to write. I'm very bad at doing things for myself when life gets busy, but since I owe them a product, then it becomes a priority. It's very hard for me to be like, oh, I want to write because I want to write because there's educating my son, working, keeping up the house, taking care of family members, whatever. But if I owe 5 to 10 people a chapter to 5,000 words or whatever every single month, they're going to
That
get
is
written.
helpful.
Yeah.
That's that's a responsibility.
That's true.
Yeah.
Deadlines are a great motivator. I do my best work 5 minutes till closing.
The only minute that counts is the last one.
I still would say be picky. I've unfortunately had a lot of haters.
Mm.
Haters.
Well, one thing that James Clear talks about, he says, first of all, he says you got to make the right thing easy to do. Like, if your goal is to practice guitar, for 30 minutes every day, well, then the guitar needs to be somewhere you can easily see it, reach it. You can't be fishing it out of your attic every time. Like if your goal is to lose weight, then your house needs to have healthy food in it and not have donuts around every corner, which I felt attacked, but yes. But he also talks about making the wrong thing hard to do. And what you're describing sounds like a good way to do it. Like, even whether it's a critique group that you go to or a personal arrangement that you've set up or just, randos that you accost in public.
A lot of them are in writing groups,
Okay.
to be fair.
But, if there's that, I think you're right, that sets up a nice or else. Like, I got to have a chapter ready for Wednesday night, or else either I don't go and they're going to ask where I was, and I'm going to have to explain myself next week, or I'm going to show up empty-handed and they're going to give me a hard time. So there is both a positive incentive, which is I will get feedback and that will feel good because I'll, whatever. But there's also a negative incentive. Like, if I don't do this, it's going to make a big hassle for me. He was talking about like some fella he was trying to do better with just not getting distracted. He actually unplugs his router Not just closes the social media tab, but like if he wants to go get on Facebook, he has to get up out of his chair, go upstairs to the thing, plug it in, wait, refresh. He makes it. He puts extra steps in that less optimal behavior so that it's not as easy and tempting to go do that other thing instead of what he's supposed to be doing. It's almost like weaponizing your own laziness. Sounds amazing to me. So what else? Is there anything else? Like you were talking about getting more consistent with your work. Is there anything else that we should think about that we haven't covered that kind of holds us back? Do you think from doing what we would like to do?
Well, I part of it's just commitment. You know, I'm the one who chooses what I do, but I feel pressure by deadlines I have at work, and so I say, well, I'm going to get up and write this morning, and that's happened several times this week.
Yeah.
I'm going to get up and write, but then something happened with work and some emergency I had to handle, and I didn't write.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure what to do about that.
Well, that's interesting, right? Because you can't call it control. Like there's plan A, but then there's the real world that we live in where things happen. One thing I've heard that's really good, he calls it training for chaos. He's like, well, the plan is I'm going to get up early and go run before work. If, one of the kids is sick and I have to stay home with them, or if my wife needs me to take the kids to school, then instead I'm going to run on my lunch break. Like he basically building in a plan A, but also a plan B. Like, okay, if this doesn't get to happen here, where am I already planning to make up that ground? So then I haven't actually tried it, but it sounds brilliant. I'm sure it'll work.
Yeah, I probably get stuck if plan A doesn't work. I'm just off on to other things.
Mm-hmm.
And although I did think I was going to write yesterday, and I got a nail in my tire and I had to go get one.
There was a massive nail too.
I mean, was that actually an L ridge?
There's a little problem, but I'm like, it looked like it was 6 inches long.
So then I actually thought of taking my computer and sitting there and writing.
Oh man!
But I didn't know if I'd have internet or anything, and so I didn't do it. I thought of it.
The car repair place is the best place to write.
Is it?
Oh man! They've always got Wi-Fi.
Coffee.
They've always got coffee. They
There's
usually
Nothing
have
else to
snacks.
do.
They
Yeah.
have coffee. Well, this was a discount tire, so
Yeah, there's
But
nothing
they-
else to do.
they had water, they had coffee.
Don't
Yeah.
go get another nail in your tire.
No, but next time you have to go for your oil change thing, you're like, I'll give you another $20 if you make this take twice as long. I got some stuff to get done. Could you go real slow?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so I need to make a plan B.
Because if you have it already in place, then it's just, oh, okay, we're gonna go do that
Yeah,
instead.
because I just never get there. It just
Yeah.
sits there, and I mean, I even pull it up on my computer,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna do this, and then emergency.
This
To
has
handle
helped
this.
me. I keep this in my purse. This is a Bluetooth keyboard, so I
Whoa.
can even write on my phone. At the full
I didn't know there
keyboard.
was such a thing.
Who
It's
knew?
like $28.
Because I always have my phone with me.
Wow.
Yeah, and so this is all I need, and I actually have a Scrivener app on my phone, so I can pull up what I was working on as the most recent copy, and write on it a discount tire or whatever, carpooling.
I
You'd be right
love
on
it,
the
because
side of the road.
Because there's
And it's
my
ergonomic.
computer. It's like
That's
I
awesome.
chuck that thing around. So this is
Yeah.
wonderful.
If you don't work on Scrivener,
You plug it, you just charge it like you would your phone.
Charger,
Word,
okay.
Word has a mobile, like a light mobile version as well that she can do that. with.
Yeah.
And I have worked on developmentally editing, some stuff, but I was like, I can't get to the computer, but I've got my little.
Oh, I had propped that on my steering wheel and literally done that outside football practice.
You ever accidentally honked your horn?
No, but I
Okay, so I
But
want
it's
to know
so
where
small, it's-
we're
I
gonna
got it
get
on
that.
Let's see.
Charges with your phone charger.
Yeah.
Oh, fancy business.
It's micro B.
It's like an iClever.
No, it's not
There's
for
a lot
iPhone.
of them.
But
I was for iPhone. I have a
Don't-
Samsung.
I'm sure you know they've got it for everybody.
It's just Bluetooth.
Well,
It's just Bluetooth. Yeah, like you would a speaker.
Oh,
or
so you can use, anybody can use it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You got it on Amazon?
So iClever?
Yeah, iClever, that's the brand, and I just looked for portable ergonomic keyboard.
You said iClever?
Yeah,
iClever.
I think that's the brand that I got too. But mine's probably older than hers. Mine's I guess like 5 or 6 years old.
Oh, mine's about 3 years old, but it's amazing because I have no excuse now. It takes away my excuse. So that's half the battle right there, because I easily fall into the excuse trap. Oh, well, I can't do it because I've got carpool, or I can't do it because I have to pick up this child here and this child here. Well, yeah, I can.
You know, if you don't pick up the children, the police will just bring them home. Like, there's a built-in fail-safe there.
Depends on where you live, of course.
Right?
Like, if you don't need them for anything real immediately.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah. I've only been to you for a few hours at a time. There are times that I'm in the middle of a writing thing, and now they're old enough, I can just call them and say, "You're gonna have to hold up. I'm onto something good."
But you know what I really like about that is that kind of speaks to Scott's point about, like, you know, using your laptop only for writing things. So I know some people can't do that because their laptop is like their only computer, so it has to kind of do a lot of things. But that
And then I've got the little
that's
menu.
not the messing around on Facebook
So
tool
you
right
can see
there.
what you're
This
typing.
one is
Yeah.
for typing. So
Yeah.
the moment you pull that out, you know you're working.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the little stand. And so it actually looks
Even
like
if
I
you're
know what
not.
I'm doing.
Oh, look at that.
So there's another thing
I'm
that
taking notes.
I would like to
Yeah.
mention.
I knew I brought you for a reason.
But trying to get, I think this sounds dumb because I can work cheerleader, but getting your family to be your cheerleader.
Yeah.
Like, I've got my husband getting people to come record us. My wonderful son knows that he's gonna have like wonderful things happen because he's being good over there.
Yeah.
For like 3 to 4 hours every
Yeah.
Thursday.
Yeah.
And
And your kids can be your biggest cheerleaders. I mean, they.
oh yeah, he's mad at me for not publishing a zombie thing yet. He's like, Mom, when are you gonna do it? When are you gonna do it? When are you gonna do it? I'm like,
Well, my son is on doing a YA this go round because he read something of mine. He goes, Mom, I really think the little boy in this should be the main character. And so I like rewrote 30,000 words and changed POV and everything just to make this
For him.
for him.
Yeah.
you know, a lot of times your responsibility to your family, you know, it acts as an obstacle to getting other things done. Not that they're doing something awful on purpose or anything, it's just life. But when they are invested in what you're doing, they find ways to make things easier.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's important.
And then you start getting, and then instead of, you know, like dads get the ties for Father's Day, well, maybe you get a book on the craft of writing. It's like everybody gets on board, and then everything is kind of geared that way. It's cool.
Or, you know, the husband goes and picks up the kids instead of you having to do it. And then it's awesome. She said, we're all still talking.
There's, you know, one thing, a lady I work with, she's got a really good system. This fella talks about like doing visible progress trackers, you know, and he has a story about some guy who he every time he made he was in sales, and every time he made a cold call, he would shift one paper clip from jar A to jar B, and he didn't go home for the day till he had 100 all moved over, like serious dedication. But this lady I know, she says, yeah, I do a similar thing. It's just marbles. Like a marble is 100 words, and I have to get 10 in the jar for the day, and so I just leave the jar so all my family can see how far along I am, and then they know, like, well, when I get to 10 marbles, I get to be done, and even little kids understand 10. And then there's a bigger jar, I think that's her whole book, and then she dumps them in there at the end. She has the kid dump them in at the end of the day, and that's, you know, but it
I do rainbow colors.
oh my God, woman. You make me tired just looking at that. But-
every 500 words.
I think we are kind of,
It's a reward system.
yeah, but I think it's we have unique challenges because we're like the least visual art form there is, so it's not easy for people who love us a lot to really understand what our progress looks like, because it's just words, so you can't really see it. And if there's a way to see it, I mean, you feel good getting to move the marbles, but it's also a way for other people to understand, no, we really are working towards something here. I know all you see is this every day, but we're really getting somewhere.
Order on Amazon on the marbles.
Make sure they're not the choking hazard kind.
Then what's so fun? What is life without rules, my friend?
And don't lose them.
All right.
Yeah.
I need to buy more because
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Do we need to talk anymore about how to get other people on board, by the way? Because I feel like that was a really good point you raised. Are we pretty well supported with our core posse of family and friends, or?
If you find somebody that really likes your work and you really, they're at the beginning stages, if they, like, let's say they're a high school teacher, for instance, and they've got an English degree or something like that, don't be afraid to show them what you're working on next. Just because they understand, even if they're seeing a later draft of something or a book that you like, having like somebody for immediate feedback, like that has read your stuff before, that you trust their opinion, like it's fun again, because you can just be like, hey, I wrote this quick thing, do you like it? And they know your voice, and they can just be like, yes.
Marcia.
And
She's all in
She's only one person.
She's pretty amazing.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, like, we're so afraid to even ask. I think a lot of times.
Well, we're so afraid to put so much energy in something that someone might think is stupid. You know, I mean, that's a big fear, and it doesn't matter if it's, you know, the right outfit, if somebody that fear of stupid kind of permeates every aspect of social construct. And so it's hard to ask that. And then once you find that truly, you're like, okay, only you are allowed to read my work. No one else. I write only for you. So, you know, it's very important, but it's that initial step that's hard.
yeah. And I mean, I've literally handed somebody one of my first drafts, and they said, "This isn't writing. This isn't garbage. You don't know what you're writing. This is at a writing loop with a published writer." And then a couple of weeks later, I hired a professional editor to look at it, and they said, "This is great." So there you go. You know, sometimes people just don't like your genre.
That's true. Audience
Sometimes
and
people are having
timing.
a bad day.
That's true.
Yeah, that too,
It has
true.
nothing to do with you, and I'll tell you that from circuses.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's not like it's about whatever's going on. It's about whatever's in the back of their head.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's like that whole, I think that's where, paradoxically, you know, it's hard to ask one person. It's even harder to ask 10 people. But I think asking 10 people and getting at least 8 sets of feedback helps kind of counterbalance the one idiot.
Like the
You know?
Olympics, your
Yeah.
high judge and your low judge. Throw them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look at the judge and you'll know.
Yeah. It's like if 3 people tell you you're drunk, it's time to lie down. You know? Like,
Like that.
yeah. But if just one person, well, maybe that's like their opinion, man. Yeah. I had other things to ask you, but I don't want to jump too quickly to them. Is there anything else we need to think about on the writing productivity for your own personal regularity of habits, getting words on paper, or making forward motion in a way that you're happy with? Do we need to? Is there anything else in that region that we need to think about?
Can I quickly go back to, it was about the writers in the field thing.
Yeah.
Related at least, you know, but also the inspiration to it. Online, which I find, talk to people in the field,
Yeah.
talk to people who are in that,
Yeah.
writing things about, you know, space miners, talking to a geologist about how you can drill
Yeah.
without using liquid or, you know, anything like that. So it's so interesting to get some technical aspects, you know, to it. What is the prison system going to be like in 30 years from now?
Yeah.
Talk to a judge who just got elected in Houston, you know? And those really help me pushing forward with that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's our whole thing. Like, yeah, like this guy John DeLauder, he's like a geophysicist. He's like a planetary geophysicist. So he studies the compositions of planets and also like sails around the dry Tortugas in a boat most of the year with his cat Nimrod. Great guy. I mean, and figuring out how do we access those people, and like that we had a homicide detective out for just in March, and he was saying his hot tip, you know, for accessing people. He said, listen, he said there's like 27 medical examiners' offices in Texas, and they are staffed 24/7. He says, so if you want to talk to a medical examiner about how do you determine cause of death or this or that, he says, you call them up at 2:00 in the morning, and I guarantee that whoever answers the phone will be delighted to have another human being to talk to. Sitting in an office full of dead people by yourself all night long, it's nice to have a friendly voice on the phone. But just the tips for how to access people, not just, you know, more than any one particular set of contact information, how do we make it okay to ask? How do we get up the guts to ask, you
At the
know?
coffee shop that I'm at, the chargers are all messed up, so everybody is right next to each other anyways. It is so crowded that you are literally stuck next to a person. And you bump into them and you have to press chargers. You find its own nature. Like
Yeah.
this coffee shop is too big and open. I have to be somewhere crowded where naturally I will interact with the person next to me. And
Yeah.
the more I do that, the more we have the opportunity to open up these conversations.
You're talking about campus scenes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's also the fact that it is every
And today.
Saturday morning Oh, and two.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
never mind.
Campesinos works too. That small table where we have to arrange who needs the desperation of the 2 chargers at the table the most.
Well,
Like,
just with Campesinos, every Saturday there is, I mean, I think the total group is like 1,200 people large, but they have a write-in. And so when you go, like the entire place is basically filled with writers. And it's like a great place to either meet other people or to have somebody to go like do a word, not word race, I've forgotten the term, but it's basically to like match you or to help you like make
Yeah.
a friend and that kind of stuff. So it's just a place that already exists for productivity. Unless you sit next to him and then he'll ask you to read his stuff and he won't really do that.
but then I usually read it back.
That's true.
Okay.
And I will spend hours editing other writers' stuff.
Very
And
fair.
I will honestly invest in their work too. And that's a real honest investment. And when I need help with something, of course,
The
they
only
know we're gonna
downside is you live in Houston.
Yep.
No, that's very true. Scott is extremely helpful. But getting the cojones to actually get up and ask is not something easy for introverts.
Well, and I think there's a value too in writing in lots of different types of places. Like, you know, I got this one lady out in East Texas, and she's like, "Yeah, I feel more. I think I'd be much more productive if I was out of the house, but there's not really any, you know." And so we were talking about where would you go? And like, well, I have a gym membership. I guess I could write at the gym. I have, you know, there's a motel. There's like a Howard Johnson up the road. I could maybe try writing in the lobby if they don't kick me out. I was like, I think you should risk it. Like, well, what if you got kicked out? Then you would have lived. You know, get kicked out,
against the law.
and it's the Hojo in your at your hometown. It's not like you're ever going to stay there. So,
All experiences are worthwhile experiences.
Well,
You're right.
yeah, and
Good
it's
and bad.
yes, because it's either going to be a good time or a good story, right? I tell you what, y'all, you ever want a real trip? Try riding on a Greyhound bus. Like, man, because people on the bus, like the people at the bus station, are sometimes a little bit nuts, but the people actually on the bus, they just want to get where they're going, you know. And there are really colorful characters. They may be just out of prison. They may be, you know, on their way to see somebody they've never seen in 40 years. But they're going the absolute cheapest way it is possible to go to get to where they're going, and they're really invested in getting there. And that, like, there's a neat energy to that.
Colorful odors too.
Yes, that too.
Like a con.
Yeah. Yeah. This, like the last one I was on, like from, oh man, it was like Missoula to Eugene or someplace. It's like the bus stopped, it braked suddenly, and then this can of Red Bull came spilling out all over me, like on my arm, because it was on the window behind me. And then this lady was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Let me get you a napkin." You know, she's all falling all over herself. And it was like, "Oh, it's fine. But dude, she was like 85. And I'm like, "Why are you drinking Red Bull?" It was like the last person you would ever expect to like have that. But that's a neat character that can go into something you're writing, right? And
It's the only thing to keep her heart still beating.
you know what? It's a defibrillation in a can, and we got to respect that. So the only other big thing I wanted to ask then is, and this is kind of the angle that I usually work when I do, you know, when I go talk at a church or something like that, is there anybody in your life who is maybe not you that you would really like to help them make a change in their life, because it seems like they need to make a change in their life, and it's hard to see how to do that. You know what I mean? Like somebody that you know would just be like, "Oh man, they'd be way happier if they would just dump that person," or if they would just, you know, if they could just change.
Everybody.
Oh, like everyone.
We all have that habit.
Yeah. And yet, if we say, you know, you need to dump that guy, they never do.
Don't you jump right into judgmental with that though?
Yes,
Yes.
People
Yes.
don't like judgmental.
I know. So I've been thinking a lot lately about how to do an end run around that. You know what you need to do, because no one ever appreciates that. You know what I mean? Because you're right.
I think the only thing you can do is lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
Like, please don't take this, I'm not too longhorn. I've lost about 50 pounds or so over the past year.
Yeah.
And everybody was just like, "Oh my God, what's wrong with you?" You know? Like,
Yeah.
Are you sick? I'm like, "No, good Lord."
I'm living my best life.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do better. And then I noticed some friends started losing weight. And then I noticed that other friends were doing other things to make their life happy.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think leading by example and just trying to stay positive when people come to you with issues. And know, like, okay, a good friend of mine, someone who's lost weight. She gave up drinking. Then she took up taking laxatives, I found out.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's how she's lost so much weight, because she's lost even more than I have. And I'm like, oh no. I didn't realize, like, I didn't think I was going to encourage that, because I didn't do something like that. But I was like, okay, so now, but you know, that's, you know, she has that personality. She was an alcoholic, bad.
Yeah.
She was a drug user, bad. She got rid of all that. So her body and her mind still needed something to do that. You know what I mean? So it's just, it's the way people think, and all I can do is say, okay, well, I'm going to continue to lead by example. Yes, I'm still stuck at this weight, and yes, I'm still stuck at this size, and you're 5 sizes smaller than me now. I don't care. I don't want to be that small, first of all. Second of all, I want to be healthy and make sure this stays. So all I can do is be there for her whenever she starts, you know, going through something bad because of this.
Yeah. This guy says something I thought was interesting. He says, as soon as a measurement becomes a target, it stops being an effective measurement. Like, think about like anytime the local police department wants to get their homicide rate down, well, they'll just start. The easiest way to do that is just start classifying them as suicides or, you know, accidents or something, right? You can make the numbers go. Like, if your only goal is to get numbers on the scale to go down, there's lots of really unhealthy ways to just make the number go down. But they don't. But, you know, that number then is no longer tied to what it was supposed to measure, which is your overall health, because you're doing these really bad things. And so figuring out how do we, like measurement is important, but making it the target is that that can get you some weird places.
I think you said something important. Like, you're leading by example, and then when people come to talk to you, you give them advice. It's people who are looking for help, and I think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah.
Because I'm bossy, and I like being bossy, and I give advice for a living now. But I don't give advice to people who don't want it, because you're right. If nobody's happy about being told what to do if they're not willing.
Right. No, you're exactly right. And to what John had said, like, this is how we avoid the trap of judgmental, is you wait for them to come to you. One thing that I have found, this is only very recent, and it might not be correct, but it is amazing how often, like we were saying earlier, a change in environment prompts a realization about the home environment. You know, like, it is amazing how, like, I have this one lady, she says, oh yeah, I was in an abusive relationship, and she said, and 9/11 was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I was like, what? And I was like, can you explain that? I'm going to need a little more context. And she says, yeah, because my husband was stuck overseas when all the planes were grounded, so I was suddenly by myself for a week. And I had time to realize what life could be like by myself and how much happier I could be without constantly being afraid of him coming home and being in a bad mood or this or that. And she's like, that was long enough for me to say, oh, I got to get out of this. That was no way to live. You know, so in her case, it was something was removed. But I think even when we just put ourselves or somebody we love, you know, if we can go to a different place, just a weekend in a motel or an afternoon at almost like how, you know, like, what is the best gift you can give new parents? Yeah, like, so whether you're babysitting the kids or you just bought them tickets to, like, you know, it's for a staycation at the local motel, it is not your business what they do at that time. And because that's really a gift that you're giving them, you don't ask or need to know. You trust that they're going to use that time to do whatever they need to do. Yeah, there's probably going to be sleep. It might be to do their taxes. No one knows. But I think that, you know, just having a radical departure from the norm is often a real trigger to say, you know, because when you're faced with going back to your regular life and all the things you normally do and all your normal habits, but you're in this magical place, you're like, you've been airlifted up, so that you're now, instead of being in the jungle of your life, you're now up in the helicopter, looking 1,000 feet down at your life and your circumstances, thinking, dude, I got to do something. I think that can be a great way to prompt that ask, you know, like that, like, hey, man, I don't think I'm doing a real good job of this right now. Can we talk about this? Yeah,
well, there are multiple valid therapies besides therapy itself, and one of them has been proven change of environment.
Yeah.
The other one is diet and exercise, like encouraging people to do like physical things, because it makes the spiritual being more in communication with his body.
Yeah.
So it makes you more aware of your environment.
Well,
we put ourselves on automatic.
Yeah. Well,
put up with guys.
And to your point earlier, Chantal, like this saying, like anybody can say, you know, you'd be much better at losing weight if you would just go for a walk. Anybody can say that, right? It's a special person who say, hey, you know, I've been trying to get in strength. Do you want to go for a walk? You know, like, will you do it with me? Like, because that's not just a you know what you ought to do. That's a, hey, I'm going to go do this thing. You want to come?
Well, you see, and you got a great point too. You know, instead of the person sitting at home watching TV, why don't you go to the park? You got a great park down the street. I mean, even that much change of environment for 10 minutes to an hour a day can be a big difference for somebody who's stuck in a life that they're so unhappy about.
Yeah.
And why do you think like some people need people? Like, you know,
Absolutely.
you're saying you've got the music in your ears and that's how you
Oh, that's just like on purpose.
And that's you. But some people need the gym buddy to go to the gym.
Yeah.
Some people join Weight Watchers. They don't join it because the food or the method. They join it because they're part of a group now.
Yeah.
And so there they get the emotional support that they need that they weren't getting alone.
Yeah.
So I think that for some people, joining a group of shared interests is a great way to, whether you're a writer or whatever your passion is, if you join a group of people who have to share the same passions, well, you might start losing weight.
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
what percentages are, but I mean, I know that they've proven if you have social support, you're more likely to be successful in your endeavor than if you don't.
yeah.
That's
The
just
group
basic.
always makes you stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to be a doctor, you study with other doctors, people in med school. You
Yeah.
sit there,
Be
you get
around those who
together,
want to be like you.
and they're right next to you. Go to these coffee shops. You want to know what those med school students are doing? They're at the coffee shop all day. You know that most of the time they're not. They have another person suffering with them.
Yeah. That's called marriage. No, but you're right. And two, the thing that I have found useful, you know how we don't like to be told what to do. This is America, damn it. Land of the free. You know, we can do whatever we dang please. Doesn't mean it's a good idea. But it's also, we are not good at asking for or receiving help. We are good at offering it a lot of times, but we are terrible as a culture at actually saying, man, I'm really drowning. I could really use a person. You know, could you help me out here? And we're really bad at accepting the help without feeling massively indebted and obligated. And, we've been taught, you don't take handouts, you don't do this. And so I think sometimes when there's a person we really want to help, if we can phrase it as them doing us a favor, like, hey, listen, I got this wicked nail in my tire. I gotta go get that changed. It's probably gonna take forever, and I'm not smart about car stuff like you are. Can you come with me? You know, we'll just catch up. I'll buy you lunch, but could you come with me to do it? And then they're with you, and then they get to be the one doing the favor, not the one who is done for or done unto. And it's amazing how many people are just so quick to jump on an opportunity to feel like a good person, to keep you company or to go to a new place with you. Like, hey, I want to go to this new group.
Gets so many dollars all day. It keeps going back to the corner because that one little thing makes people feel good.
Yeah.
But it's not helping him. So
Yeah.
it's built in us.
Yeah. And if we can figure out how to use that to do a good thing.
Sometimes people, I'm only telling this because I worked for my church for years. Sometimes people find that help is impossible.
Mm-hmm.
They're so far down in life that they don't think it's possible to be helped. So there's just a trick to dealing with humans. There really is. And a lot of it is respecting where they are and figuring out how to communicate at a level where they get.
Yeah. Did you ever follow Fly Lady? She's a you know the one,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
She's this magical guru for mom. Usually stay at home.
Did you say fly lady?
Fly Lady, yeah. And
She's a fly fisher.
Oh.
yeah, but she's a kind of a guru for mostly stay-at-home moms, really, and she will send you like a million emails a day, like, it's 10 a.m. Are your shoes on yet? Like that kind of,
Yes.
for people who really need the structure. But one of the things I thought was so cool that she does is her first little tip sheet, it's only about how to clean your sink. Just your kitchen sink. Your whole house might look like a bomb went off, but her logic is, she says, no matter how bad your sink is, you can clean it in a day. Then you have a clean thing. Then you've demonstrated progress for yourself. Then you have a record of success to start building on, and say, well, I cleaned the sink. Maybe I can clean half the counter, or whatever else. And figuring out, like, when it feels impossible, like, we got 100 pounds to lose. Like, how am I going to do that? Well, what if I lost one? Like, That would be all right.
That's actually how I wrote a first book.
Really?
I was scared to death to write a book. And then I said, Stephen King published that little book and made a big book out of all of it, The Green Mile.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I can do that. I can just publish a tiny little thing. And then I was like, wait, if I just wrote that, why can't I write the next thing? You know?
Yeah.
So just little steps make a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know we're preaching to the choir on that. You guys are already off to the races on all that stuff. But I think the more we can notice what we have done that has been successful for us, we can, in writing, you know, or what have you, then the easier it gets to apply that to other parts of our lives. Like, okay, well, when I wanted to be a writer, I started by just writing a paragraph every day and seeing how that went. You know, how would that apply to cleaning my house? How would that apply to this other thing? And it helps. I think it will help make us better friends and family members, and be more able to help the people that we really care about. So that's the big thesis that I had. It's just you're here. You're already the converted. You're already doing so many of the right things. You write, you know, even when you can't write super regularly, you're writing. You're showing up. You're doing the work. You're making connections with other people. You're finding new friends. You know, like you're building it out. And I bet there's a lot more you could do with that that's going to make a huge difference for you in other parts of your life and for the people that you care about. And I'm really excited to see that happen. So that was the thought. That was what I had. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it.
I thought that was lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah.
I'd like to sit here and play your questions if you'll let me.
Okay. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So
Name, rank, and serial number.
You do a ton around Dallas, obviously. I'm curious to know how you got started in, because I mean, you built a bunch of different, or you've been part of a bunch of different sort of support networks, whether you look at them that way or not. The Writers in the Field,
Yeah.
I'm going to call the wrong thing as a dash. My goodness, no, it's the right thing. The writers groups that you've seen.
Yeah, WordFest. We do WordFest, and yeah, in the spring, yeah.
How did you end up becoming a career volunteer, essentially, to help other people learn, to help other people with their writing?
You know, it's funny, and I, you know, Chantel, I know you've already got several books out. I don't know if anybody else here has published work, but when my first book came out in 2014, I did everything you're supposed to do. And, you know, like I did the Twitter hashtag, and I ran the giveaway with the Rafflecopter, and did the ARCs, and I had the launch party, and I had the promotional, I did all those guest blogs, and I hated all of it. It was terrible, except for the launch party. That was super rad. And so for the next book launch, in 2015, I was like, okay, well, what if I just do the parts that I enjoy and am good at, which, like you, is people, right? So I was like, okay, forget the hashtag nonsense, whatever. I don't keep up with Twitter anyway. What if I just went around to a bunch of places and, you know, and like went to conventions and did panels and enjoyed it, you know, and I did. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I learned how to speak extemporaneously and all that stuff. The book still didn't sell for Jack, but I had a good time, you know. So like the House of Straw was the first book where I did everything I hated and the book didn't sell. The House of Sticks was the second book where I did just the things that I really enjoyed. The book still didn't sell, but I had a good time. And then for the third one, I was like, well, wait a second. I'm spending all this money going all these different places, Oregon and California and Minneapolis. Turns out Montana is real, you guys. I thought it was an urban legend, but you can actually go. It's I don't know how to explain it. But for the third one, I just like, wait a second. I live in a metroplex of 7 million people. If 1/7 of the people in this place knew about my work, I would be screening phone calls from Oprah. Like, really, and you here, I mean, just as much as us up there, like, you live in this human gold mine. You sit in traffic with them every day. And so I said, okay, rather than gallivanting all over the planet, what if I focused here and really tried not just to get people interested in my work here, but also try to develop the literary scene here? Because there's...
Dallas, Fort Worth.
Yeah. And you know what? That book didn't sell either. But so there is no House of Brick. I'm sorry, it's a House of Lies. But I decided that, you know, like you get that advice about how to promote your work, and what are you always told? What do they tell you to do if you're going to promote a book? What do you need? What are you an idiot if you don't do? You have to have a platform, and you have to have a social media. Everybody's got to be on the tweet space and the face zone and the Insta whatnots and whatever. Right? And remember when you were supposed to have a blog and everybody was like, oh, you got to have a blog? Yeah. Okay, so my thesis on that stuff is, it's not that it's wrong. it's that telling people to do that stuff is like, that's like John Scalzi and Chuck Wendig and all the people who got a blog back in the day. Okay, they're saying that, okay, well, the highway from Nowheresville to Success Town is easy. Just get on the freeway. Just get on the freeway from here to there, just like I did. It's like, okay, that's great. But those people left at 5 a.m. They got their blog, and they're like, Chuck Wendig was one of the early adopters of Twitter. Of course he has a huge following now. He was one of the first ones on that platform. Now it's like 8:30 a.m. This freeway is choked because everyone is following that advice. Everyone is trying to do the same set of things. And go long answer short, I decided a while back that you can still get there. You just got to be prepared for it to take a while. So there's two ways to do this, right? You can either go ahead and say, yep, I'm going to get on the freeway, understanding it will take me longer than those people who were first successful. I'm okay. I got a stadium buddy. I got road snacks. I got my Sirius satellite radio and a full tank of gas, and I'm prepared for the long haul. Or you can do what I did, which is I decided to take the back roads, and because being with writers is what I enjoy. It's what I'm good at. I love event crafting, even when it goes hilariously sideways. I love making, being the architect of an experience is awesome. I love it. I'm good at it. So it may be that this back road that I'm on about building a literary community and taking and doing events and trying to build up community between writers groups, that may go nowhere. But it's possible that will eventually lead to Success Town, and even if it didn't, I'm enjoying the scenic drive. And I may find something along the road that's even better that I didn't even know I wanted. We were on the road here. Didn't look at our GPS, took the wrong turn, took a Heights Boulevard. We did a little UE or something like that on 9th Boulevard. Sign up there says, fix your dog. Has you seen this? It's wonderful. I never would have found it if I'd been going straight from point A to point B. Now we have photos. Also, we got the impeccable pig. I'm really excited about that. But that's my whole thesis. Is just because success can never be guaranteed, I figure the only thing we can do is to live a life that we're proud of, that we enjoy for its own sake, regardless of what anybody else does or cares about that with that. And for me, that's being with writers and, I don't know, sucking up their fear and anxiety and pain and just feeding on all those wonderful neuroses that you have and returning it to you as enthusiasm, I hope. So I am an emotional succubus, and you are welcome.
That's fantastic.
I'm sorry that was like a 10-minute answer, but thank you for the platform.
I really appreciate it. So setting up events is something that you do on a regular basis. Looking back over your career doing this, what would you have told your younger self to make it easier?
Oh, I really wish I'd gotten out of my cave a lot sooner than I did. I really didn't join any writers groups or anything. Like I was holed up writing from 2007 to 2012. And it was only when I thought I was done that I started to go out into the world. So I think I lost some time there that I could have smoothed that road if I'd done like what you do, and just what if I were writing in the world, even if I wasn't trying to sell a book to it, But more than that, I wish somebody had told me that most of the overnight successes that we see, did anybody hear, because this is a lot of sci-fi folk, Anne Leckie's Ancillary Justice, did anybody hear about that one when it came out and blew up the world? Just a few years ago. Ish. Well, okay, so they're told that that was her debut novel, and it went nuts, and it won all the Hugos and the Nebulas and sold all this stuff, and you're just like, wow, she came out of nowhere and just made it. I could do that. No, she had been in the community for 10 years, 20 years as a short fiction writer, so she had hundreds of people, important influency type people with loads of followers ready to be excited about that with her. The same for think about E.L. James, 50 Shades of Grey. What did that start out as before it was that? Did anybody know?
Yeah,
that was fan fiction, Twilight fan fiction, that had tens of thousands of followers on fanfiction.net. She started with a pre-built audience. No wonder it blew up and took over the world. And I super wish that I had known, listen, you're going to launch your first book, no one will care, it'll sell, a few hundred copies, and that'll be enough to get you started, and then when you're bigger than big, a lot more people will care, but that's not going to happen just by the act of publishing. If I wasted a lot of time feeling bad about trying to push the envelope and sell books and feeling like a greasy schmuck and then not being able to do it. And I could have saved myself a lot of grief just knowing, listen, baby girl, you got no platform, you have no audience, you don't know what you're doing, you're traditionally published, they're not marketing you, and you have no control over the product, so you can't change pricing or do any of the book bubs or whatever. Do your best, but don't lose sleep over it, because there is no game over screen in this business. There is only, do you wish to continue? Every now and again, the answer is yes.
So you asked us a bunch of questions about how we make ourselves productive. I'm curious to know, how do you get yourself to be productive? What do you do to get those good marks? Oh, no.
Make wild and outlandish promises to someone, then struggle to keep them. If you've ever put down a $2,000 event deposit, that's very motivating too.
Oh my God, I could imagine. I was really motivated.
Yeah. Honestly, my whole whatever, I'm never gonna sell a marketing book because it's a tweet's worth, right? My whole strategy is do the things you enjoy or might enjoy. You're never gonna know unless you try, right? Notice which of those things people are responding to and enjoying, then do more of those things. That's it. Refine and repeat. My mom made me buy this hat. I was like, Mom, only idiots wear hats. Who would do this? And she was like, no, you need a hat. And I'm like, fine, I'll take the hat. And then everybody was like, you have a hat. And I'm like, you like this? This is the most like asinine, patronizing thing I could have ever done. I'm a 2-wheel drive Texan. My other truck is a Prius. Like, I shouldn't be wearing this, but they like it. They notice me when I do. And when I don't, I'm completely invisible. So it kind of works.
There's something to that, because I went to this big writers conference, and I used to have cobalt blue hair. And I mean, like that color of blue, like that bag there, is like bright blue.
Yeah.
Like this blue, like that white.
Yeah.
And I had bright blue hair, and I went to this conference, and I realized everyone around me was a middle-aged brunette with glasses, which is what I was before I was a blue-haired, middle-aged person with glasses. And people would come up and say, oh, I was told to talk to the blue-haired girl. And suddenly in this room full of hundreds of people, publishers would come up and go, oh, somebody suggested that I talk to the blue-haired girl. I heard that 100 times over the course of the week, and I suddenly was somebody, but nobody knew my name. They just knew my hair. But they could find me in a crowd, and they would come up and the introductions would be made, and I got my first published book out of having blue hair. Like, seriously.
Dude.
So that's how I ended up talking to the right people at the right time. And it's like it was the introduction. It became my calling card until my hair started falling out. And I had to lose it. But it's funny that because you've got your red hat, you say you're invisible without it. Well, I'm now back to being invisible.
It's, well, in a, you can get a, oh, John, thank you for coming out. I will be privileged to share a cluster with you.
I love your hair.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
I know the feeling because I got the goth thing going on. And a lot of people are like, oh, you're that creepy.
Well,
Own it. You got
I
it.
used to work for Wild Collection, which is an oddity shop here in town, for 3 years. And I stopped working there, and then I was like, I miss it so much. So now I make my own taxidermy pieces, and I have my own little pop-up market thing that I do. So they still know me as that.
yeah.
Nice.
I think,
Being known is the key. It doesn't always have to be something
Yeah.
beautiful, fabulous.
It is beautiful.
No,
Facts are
I'm not
gorgeous
saying
when
that. I'm
they're
just
dead.
saying, in general, like my blue hair was not beautiful, but it was
I'm
quirky.
well, I think,
And I
When it
heard
started
that's
falling
what you-
out, it was especially not.
well, I mean, that's just it, is I think people are really relieved to have something that is socially acceptable to notice and comment on as a way to start a conversation.
That's
When I make
You know.
myself an intentional spectacle,
Yeah.
and you can open up so many conversations with strangers. I had more people approach me to talk to me about my hair than I ever had approach me about any other thing in the history of my
Yeah.
life.
It's like
You
getting
know?
a dog.
Yes, it's like
When
going
you walk your dog into a
and all of a sudden everybody's like,
Or a newborn baby.
yes, exactly.
Our friend Catherine, she has a service dog, and he's a black lab. And of course, everywhere she goes, everybody's like, dog! And she's like, and so we joke, and she's like, yeah, I need to come up with some new answers. And I was like, well, what if, like, when they come up and they're like, oh, you have the dog, and what if you just looked at them like, you can see him too? But yeah, I think we've wandered far afield from your original question, but
Cool. You guys
yeah.
are conversing and doing stuff. So I've got more questions if you guys are up for it.
Real quick,
So
I
I
do
want to
want
know
to know,
what your life looks like.
does she have a website for
What do you do on a daily basis? Is that too hard?
Crazy.
PGTEX.
Oh yes. Sorry, I have cards and things too. If anybody wants
Yes.
one, I don't know.
Sorry, I was trying to get that in while you
No,
were
that's
talking.
great.
That's a very good
That's
point.
great.
How do you
People
find,
left.
before we go too far, tell us how to find you this weekend and then afterwards.
Yeah. So this weekend I'll be hanging around at a bad smell at Comic Palooza. Pick a card. None of them wins you anything. Then I will be back down for Write Fest. Is anybody going to that?
Yeah, Sean and I are. I'm not sure if anybody else is.
Yeah.
You are?
Yes.
I'm into it.
Okay.
Oh, that's good. That's on Stringing Smith.
Yes. That's May 27th to June 2nd. There's like a 4-day, week-long intensive workshop that's divided by genre, but there's also just the weekend conference. And I went last year for the first time and had a ball. So
This year in May? The end of this month?
the end of this month.
And romantic and memoirs already sold out.
Yeah, the creative nonfiction sold out. Science fiction workshop still has room though. Sci-fi fantasy one does.
Cool.
Some clown in a red hat's teaching that.
I will have an eye patch on. I'm having my first cataract removed.
Awesome.
So I won't be able to.
You would, but
You
then
plan
you
on
would
a
use the
second-
eye patch girl instead of as the goth girl.
We
Well,
can
they
get
make
you a
you-
ride.
They make you stay home
Oh.
the first 24 hours after this.
Oh yeah.
I can't even
They
read
don't
or
have any of this
anything.
stuff.
I can't even
I've
watch
had
TV.
all of that done, and you'll be great. You'll
I
love it.
can't wait. It's really affected my ability to read.
I've had 6 invasive surgeries and 13 laser surgeries. I actually went, honest to God, blind and was blind for a couple of years. And the surgery, it's amazing. I mean, I was like, did you know you can actually see leaves on a tree, not just green and brown? Because I didn't know
Yeah.
that. So it was really cool.
Everything crosses, everything's double. I see two of stuff. I can't drive at night anymore.
Yeah, she inherited. She's having her surgery in June. So.
Well, by the time you get to what she had to do, it's going to be so much more advanced.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. For
They're
sure.
gonna grow your new eyeballs on the back of a lab rat.
Did you hear
They're
about
like,
them
what color do
growing-
you want?
printing birds?
Yeah.
They printed a real heart, and it's in a rabbit right now. So we're going to be able to have new eyeballs printed for you. soon.
Yeah. Before that, they printed a heart and put it in a cow. So.
If they can fix our personalities, that would make the best.
Yeah, well.
Like, hey, we just got a cure from laziness
But
or
who would
Okay.
procrastination.
who would
Dude,
say it was the right
This
personality?
guy's he tells about somebody in his book. This guy he resets the TV room every time he finishes watching TV. Like he'll clean up his dishes, put the remote back, turn off, get everything all straight, get the living room all straightened out. He cleans his toilet every time he's about to take a shower. Like he says, what better time to clean your toilet than when you're about to wash your entire body, right? And so it's like he didn't have like the toilet butter on the back the way most no this fellow he interviewed, and he said. And the guy says, it's not that I'm really diligent. He says, I prefer to think of it as being preemptively lazy. Let me go ahead and take care of this now so I don't have to do anything later. And I'm like, how do we harness our vices? Yeah. Like my husband's contempt for global capitalism has saved us so much money in the last 2 years. He's like, no. They want me to buy that toothpaste. I'm not doing it. And I was like, no, please buy the toothpaste. Just don't buy the video games. Spite, anger, laziness, cowardice, arrogance, they all can help you live your best life. We just have to know how to harness them.
What are your panels this weekend?
Oh, world building in short fiction. What else are we doing? The storytelling of Game of Thrones. And...
Please tell me you're not doing this recent season. Oh my
No, I haven't seen the recent season.
Oh, that would be fun. You can just make stuff up.
Yeah, right. My whole thesis is that guy is peeing in my pool, and I am tired of it. This whole big shot, famous fantasy author, neckbeard, fedora cane. I don't care whether his name is Robert Jordan or Patrick Rothfuss or George R. Martin or whoever. They start shit, they get $1 million, they don't finish, they die, and then the rest of us are like, there's thousands more readers. She's like, I'm not going to start a series till it's finished because they've been burned. So nobody wants to buy my book 1, which means I don't get to book 3. I'm not having it.
That's annoying.
Not having it. No.
And you're like, come on. He wrote like 50,000 people. Of of course he's not going to finish before he dies.
Yeah.
You know.
Now we got to get Brandon Sanderson in there to clean it up. Yeah.
See, that's why I'm doing the book.
Because you are talking about like the negative emotions and help harness like actual motivation to do things or change things. When you were having issues with your first book, and you said like it felt shit basically to not sell, and you were working really hard. How did you turn yourself around and not get jaded? Like, how did you motivate yourself to continue?
Oh, yeah. How do we do that, y'all? Well, here's a question, actually. I think, and Chantel, this may be different for self-publishing. I felt tremendous guilt because I was traditionally published, and I was like, this publisher is backing me. They spent all this money on this book. They paid me a pretty nice advance. My agent went to bat for it. All this cover artist worked hard. All these people worked so hard on this. I cannot fail them. Not realizing that my job was not to be the marketing guru. No, I didn't. Actually, I did give up, but
But you're still sitting there with your red hat.
No, I didn't give up on life. I just gave up on being a best-selling author anytime soon. So for me, I think one of the things that made it harder was just that I felt that there were all these people behind me that I was kind of failing, and it was hard to kind of decouple from that. And it's like, listen, they're proud that it's out there. It's a good book. I'm still proud of it. Like if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I'm okay with dying because I got to tell the story I really wanted to tell the way I wanted to tell it. And it didn't get chopped up and mangled. It's still a good story. I'm still really proud of it. My job is not to dictate what other people think about it, whether they buy it or like it or whatever. My job is to, I put out the best work I possibly can, and I need to continue putting out fabulous work, whether that's written work or, community work or whatever. Like, I was telling Dee, it's like, die used up. That's all I can promise is that, by the time that, that chicken fried steak and 5-hour energy induced heart attack finally inevitably gets me, it's like, I will have given everything I have. There will be nothing, I will not hoard any of it. I feel bad for the people on the receiving end of it, but that's on you.
On the opposite side, this is the problem I'm having. I worked for my church for a long time and I sold books for them. So I have extreme book selling skills. I always sell a shit ton of my books. Always. Mm-hmm. But it makes other people super jealous. And I've got a lot of haters because of that shit. And it's so crazy because I'm like you. I want our community to be together. I want us to support each other, traditional and non-traditional.
Yeah.
How do you get time for that? I mean, it sounds like a stupid problem, but it really is a problem.
There's actually a wonderful article if you're interested. It's on Wait But Why, and it's called If You're Not Pissing Anyone Off, You're Probably Not Doing Anything Important. And it's actually got graphs and stuff showing number of people angered by you watching cat videos in your underwear. It's comfortably 0 unless you're supposed to take out the trash that day or whatever. But then you've got, like, the president. And no matter who the president is, if we're talking about Trump, Obama, Jimmy Carter, whoever, there's millions of people who hate that guy's guts. He's in such a position of power that there's going to be people who strongly disagree with him no matter what, And
every president.
I didn't really figure that I'd made it until, I started doing events like Writers in the Field and WordFest and whatever. I had to break up with my old writers organization and stop going to my old conference because they were super not okay with what I was doing. They saw it as a threat. They saw it as competition.
100%.
Yeah, and they kind of figured like, well, we're Coke and they're Pepsi and Coke doesn't help Pepsi. And I was like, no, we're Coke and they're rum. This is a totally different thing.
I work in sales too, and there's 30 other salesmen competing. And at the end of the month, your name is on the list. Number 1, number 2, number 3.
Oh, dude.
That's so much pressure.
You have to work with each of those salespeople. So imagine if you're number 1 for a year, number 2 does not like it. Number 3 is, and the person at the bottom, they hate your guts.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have anything to do with the job you're doing or the quality of work. Just the number 1 next to your name makes you a target for other people.
Yeah.
Regardless
So
of who you
stupid.
are.
How long ago was that? Have any of them come back around and realized like that was kind of
That was like about 2 or 3 years ago, and I don't know. I think part of it is part of the problem. There was issues even before that, but I think part of the problem is like you were saying, like when people come from a corporate environment, there is very much a culture of this is ours. We do not share. We got to keep the edge. We got to whatever. everything in my background is educational, which is we want all the third graders to do great on the STAR test, not just the ones in my class. So we're going to share our lesson plans and do our very best to help all the little third graders. And I was just like, that makes sense to me, but I could see how in other environments it's completely counterintuitive and doesn't work.
And my original background, I was a sales manager, so I used to coach people for feedback, and instead of people just asking like, hey, how come you're doing this well, you get anger instead. And they never learn and grow, and they stay at the bottom.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
They've worked there 20 years.
I don't get it.
But no, we're all screaming into the floor. They're helping each other scream louder. Like that's
Exactly. I mean, there are a lot of writers, but not that much of the world is creative like that. And I don't care who you are. If you're a human being, you consume everything.
Yeah.
And every single writer could be famous, and they'd still consume everything.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're going to hurt each other. And because I know Catherine, I know getting on that bestsellers list is actually more political than you realize.
Yeah.
It really isn't about how many books you sold. It really isn't. You would be shocked.
There's an interesting concept called the Dunlop number, which is the number of people that the human brain can actually truly have a meaningful relationship with. And that number is about 250. They've noticed that, like, okay, in indigenous societies, once a group gets above about 250 people, it will tend to divide in some way. Either a formal division, like, okay, these guys go over here. Yeah, right. Yeah. And you think about, like, there's just, Amber Royer, she was, crying in her beer about, like, she had her book come out and it was not doing well. And she's like, I only sold 400 copies my first 2 weeks. And, and of course that's like garbage in that world that she's in, right? Traditionally published. I was like, dude, 400 people, imagine them in person, wrapping around the block at the Barnes & Noble in your autograph line. Like 400 people is more that your hand would fall off before you got to finish signing their books. That's a huge number of people. But because of this ridiculous economy of scale, we're meant to feel like 400 is not enough and what we need is 4 million. And the thing is that all of those people that are dogging on you for being where you are, they are not part of your core 250. And you've only got 250. It's like MySpace, only instead of like 8 slots. Remember that? Like you got about 250 slots. They do not get one of your slots. We can actually humanly care about that many people at max. Everybody else, I think that we can't be losing sleep over them. Like unless they're like waiting outside your house to kill your dog.
Being part of groups, and I used to volunteer for Right Space, and I used to volunteer for all these groups, but I just was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to stop writing.
Yeah.
Like I had to take a break because I felt so like, ugh.
Yeah. Well, how do we disconnect from that? It feels like that's everywhere.
Yeah.
okay. How do you disconnect from that? How do you overcome the fact that it seems like people are just like trying to make you rage quit or?
Have you tried not tweeting? It's amazing. I know. Some people get people to manage that stuff for them. Like,
yeah, I have a managed service for my tweets.
Yeah, like is there a professional prophylactic, a person that you could have that kind of helps you stay insulated?
That kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
social
That
media
kind of stuff I
marketing.
feed off of because, like you said, when you start doing the right thing, it makes the squirrely people freak out. That's not the problem. It's people that you respect, and then they're like, "But that's not real writing. That's
it hurts you when it's the
and
squirrely
stuff like
people,
that."
too.
You're like, what?
Because I lost 14,000 followers in 24 hours on Twitter because I posted something that was leaning toward, it was a pro-cop piece, and it was, nobody wanted to read a pro-cop thing. And actually it was a GoFundMe to try and get better equipment to protect officers after the big shooting in Dallas. And I lost 14,000 in 24 hours.
that.
Yeah.
But
I know.
it touched somebody's nerve, touched 14,000 nerves, and so I'm like, okay, well they're not. I'm
But you
okay
know
without
what?
it, but I bemoaned it for like a month or more.
But I-
Yeah, probably more. I was
So
just
what do you
like,
say? They're not your audience?
Well, they are my audience, but I needed to separate my personal stuff from my work stuff because the tweet
Yeah,
about
like-
the police officers had nothing to do with the books I was writing. But it was one of those things, you're going to get hated, it's going to ebb and flow, and there is no good way sometimes to separate your personal feelings from that because those things hurt. But you just have to know that if you're writing true to yourself and you're writing what makes you happy, then you're successful.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you gotta always keep it going.
Did anybody follow that? I think it was Nathan Pyle who wrote those cute little alien comics.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's like a pro-life religious person.
Well-
I mean, like he's not. But in his comics, it doesn't show. But somebody found a tweet. I think. From,
Yeah,
2013.
where he was like, his girlfriend was like, I'm sure glad nobody aborted me, and he's like, I too am glad you were not aborted. I really enjoy your company.
I thought there was like something where he was like, proud of his girlfriend for going to a pro-life rally and like supporting her cause.
Yeah.
And then I thought that was one where everybody kind of like flipped out.
Everybody flipped out, and he lost, the whole internet fell on his head like it does. And one of the responses that I thought was pretty interesting was, and I think it was from another webcomic artist, it said, when you produce content regularly, you produce your cute alien comics, which are like the most inoffensive things ever. I mean, that's one of the things that, right. You produce content regularly, people consume it, they feel a personal relationship with you, but that is a completely one-sided relationship because you've never seen them. Right, so when these fandoms develop, it's like we love Supernatural, or we love the Alien comics, or we love Neil Gaiman, or whoever we love. These people have no idea who we are, and so when we form a very intimate portrait of them, and whenever they step outside that portrait in some way, we're really hurt and angry, because it's like, that wasn't the pic. You messed up the picture I had of you. Like, really, that's what happened in the brain. Is like they messed up your image of them. And it's really hard. Like, the only way to never step outside that circle of that people's image of you is never to move. So unless you're comfortable standing absolutely stock still for the rest of your professional career, I don't think you can avoid it.
Yeah. Well, how can you be authentic? If you're always trying to stick to what everybody else wants.
Yeah.
So basically, you've got to be willing to take that risk
Or separate completely. Yeah.
Or if is this the hill that you want to die on? Is this the thing? Is this the cause that you're willing to sacrifice something
My
for?
publisher told me I should apologize, and I refused. I was like, I will not apologize because all I did was post a GoFundMe so that people could be adequately equipped. I did not pick any side of any political battle. That's all I did. And the fact that there are officers that don't have protective gear is really ridiculous in this day and age when money's spent on football fields and crap like that. And so I wouldn't apologize. And so that was my hill. And I will never get those $14,000 back.
But that's okay. If that's your hill and that's where it is, then you know that.
Well, it's
You
just,
know,
why should I apologize for something that I didn't?
Exactly. That's fine.
already
No.
unfollowed you. They
Yeah, it's
won't
not
see
like
the
I-
apology anyway.
That's true.
Yes.
Way to alienate everyone.
Very astute.
You're just gonna anger the other people who stayed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just, now I have the most, but it's funny because when I posted things that were more on the edge, I got more followers very quickly.
Yeah.
And now that I post the most benign writer inspirational stuff, it just hovers at a number and doesn't really grow, and it's not really an effective tool for me anymore.
Yeah.
So I think you have to be willing to put yourself out there a little bit because those are the things that people notice and want to click follow for.
You showed me that YouTube clip on our way down here of like, okay, this Houston news guy, Isaiah Carey.
Oh, I love him.
It's like some this news anchor. He's doing his professional news anchor voice. He's out on site reporting about something, and he's like, yes, and this is, it looks like there's just been a certain, and then something like blows in his face or something. And he's like a bug, went in his eye or something. He's like, mother, what the hell? What the
And he
hell?
went from his professional voice to, cussing.
And the thing is apparently he got hugely popular after that because that was a level of realness people appreciated.
Oh, it's a funny trip.
Yeah.
So it's about 10 till 3. Does anybody else have any questions? Because I don't want to monopolize if you guys have anything you want to answer.
They're such good people, Shannon.
Well, I guess, we're talking about this, and that's something I struggle with because I'm a business person. And then there's this other side of me that's completely different. And so I ask people, should I, as far as social media and everything, should I have two different sets of social media? And most people tell me, no, you've already got people who know you this way. But I don't feel comfortable talking
100%
about
you should have two sets, in my
these
opinion.
things to these, because it's like, I decided, well, my sister has been in the Baptist church all these years, right?
Yeah.
So I went home, so I never talked about any of this stuff with her. So I went home and I started kind of talking about some of it. And she got really angry at me for talking to her daughter. But they were asking me questions like, what are you going to write? What's, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So as we were coming back, my son said something I thought was really smart. He goes, Mom, they're just not your audience. So I've been kind of, because I'm really ready. I want to move ahead. I want to start the social media platform and all that stuff, because I do enjoy social media. And so, but I've been torn because do I stick with, this professional name? I thought of saying my mother's maiden name is LaPrade, and I'm a Francophile anyway. And so I thought of using Deandra LaPrade as my, what do you call that?
Author's name.
Yeah, my author's name, even artist's name. And so, I don't know, would you have any advice on whether you stick everything together or go separate? Or?
My friend, I'm really glad you asked. They say that a brand is, among other things, it is what you can consistently deliver. And I think the word that we're focusing in on here is consistently. Because, I can consistently deliver a red hat, some earthy metaphors, enthusiasm, and probably a good funny line or two. Those things I can reliably produce. So those are the things I really rely on. So for some people, it would not be, they would be able to hold 2 social media accounts, but they wouldn't be able to do it indefinitely. It would be too much of a strain for, they find that overwhelming. But for other people, I think they would be able to live a double life for a little while, but ultimately not, you know what I mean?
Well, I actually would see myself phasing, as I get the creative in going, I would see myself phasing out of the real estate insurance and industries and into just, I would just like to honestly be in the creative end of my life.
Absolutely. And so, for me, my given name is Arianne. My last name that I was born with is Thompson. So most people who knew me, either during or before high school, still call me, my family still calls me Arianne. I would never have had the guts to do any of this crazy nonsense under my own given name. I really had to do the Batman Bruce Wayne thing and the Tex Thompson in order. And then I got married and I had to get him a green card. So, technically the license doesn't match. But
well, I already changed my first name. I grew up as Diane, but I don't even relate to that person because through all my experiences, I'm a really good person.
Yeah.
So I changed it to Deandra.
Yeah.
So I got one name changed under the belt.
So I guess my question is, how much of a social media presence does your regular workaday self even need?
Well, she's in real estate probably.
I do have one, but it's just, I have no passion there anymore. I just really want to shift into the creative,
Maybe it would be, especially if your long-term view is to phase out, so that you don't have to keep 2 sets going forever.
Right.
If you feel like that's something you could do for a while you're getting this other thing off the ground, and then shift gears, that could be pretty good. And then your new person can be the person you really are, and not the person that everybody expects you to be.
Yeah, I really am that other person.
Mm-hmm.
That's my passion.
Yeah.
It's hard when those worlds collide, though.
It's
Hard when those worlds collide.
Right.
I have 3 different accounts because I'm a hairdresser professionally. So I have my hairstylist, which is my regular name. Then I have my book personality, and then I have my cackles and bats for my little oddities thing. But they all support each other.
Yeah. So that means you have at least 3 RSVPs to any event you do. That's really good.
It helps, right? It helps me keep separate the things I need to do. So for me, it's like organizing my social media.
Well, you also have to watch. I had bought a franchise to a small Christian private school, and I ran that school. But I was also dancing burlesque at the time under 2 different names.
Wow.
And I friended myself on Facebook so I could check my other profile more easily without logging out. And I didn't know it did a suggested
Friends.
so and so one of the moms PM'd me and was like, you might want to check yourself because those 2 worlds could not collide with
The only reason
any
I
good
don't let
results.
a lot of people onto my personal one is just because it's my only way to reach me directly. I don't really care if they otherwise. I'm a local person.
Yeah. But there's something to be said for keeping the peas at a healthy distance from the mashed potatoes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're giving people financial advice or, how to handle Medicare advice, and then you're going over talking about astral traveling and multidimensional beings and.
So,
They don't seem to fit together.
I feel like they do. So maybe what we're saying is that in the old days, it was kind of maybe easier to separate your life. Like back in the Mad Men days, when literally you would go to the office and work your office job and then go onto the train and be home and do home person stuff. Like there was a natural division. Now we gotta fight for every inch of division because everything wants to, we're never off the clock. The work follows us everywhere. And doing like what Scott was saying about like, okay, laptop is work only. I mean, is writing only, or this is for this room is for this thing, and and this persona is for this type of content. Like maybe we're in an age where we're having to make more conscious and deliberate and effortful divisions than the sort of natural ones from the previous generation.
Exhausting.
Just
Not
because we're so
exhausting.
much more accessible with the internet.
Like you said though, it's not exhausting if you can physically separate it from yourself. It's only exhausting if you have the mental.
That is it on a stick, man. That's the thesis for this
and even
whole
for
thing.
both my pages, for both my personalities, I have pages. Like, so on my personal Facebook, I have a page for the salon.
Mm-hmm.
And then on my author's profile, I still have a page just for, because if they don't want to friend me, they don't have to. They can just follow me as an author.
Like I do all my Word business on Google Chrome, and then I do my regular business on Firefox. Two browsers, same computer. But that way all the bookmarks are correct for that browser. It just
And then you can kind of jump into that mindset of
Yes.
who you are. It's
Yes.
like it becomes
even from the same
Menu.
device. Yeah. So any place you get a chance to add some separation, maybe that's something worth doing.
Well, I think the fact that I can now see myself transitioning from one to the other. Before I couldn't see it, but I just came actually across a healing modality that I want to get certified in, and something I've been sort of doing on my own anyway. And so I can see me now finding another way to support myself in over here while I'm doing the writing and the art, making art, the jewelry and all the stuff I want to do.
which healing modality.
It's called the emotional code and body code. Yeah, it's something. Yeah, it's been around a while, but I sort of developed my own system just for doing my own healing, and then I found out that somebody else had developed this whole system and didn't get certified in it. It's like, yay!
Do you guys do you remember Mr. Rogers, like the show, and how he would come in? Remember, he would always take off his shoes, he'd take off his jacket, he would put on his sweater, and then it was time to sit down. No, that's different. But that small, I think he did that really deliberately, that very small act of transition between outside world and Mr. Rogers' world, right? And maybe we all need to get better at just like, okay, it's time to take off the jacket and the shoes and put on my sweater and be a different person right now. And like you said, that saves mental energy when you can do it just as a habitual thing, when
People used to.
That might
Yeah.
not be getting
They
more in the
come
moods
home
of,
and they
okay, now I need
put
to
on their
focus
dinner
on writing.
jacket.
Yeah.
Or they transition out of their suit into leisure wear.
yeah,
I mean,
we
now,
could afford to get better at that.
How we're so busy, what we put on
Now
in the
I-
morning is what we pass out in.
Now I put on my Sunday sweats when I'm going to a fancy place.
I have
but-
one last question.
Sure.
What is the most rewarding moment you've had either as a writer or as an educator?
Meeting me.
One of the big ones, one of the big ones was bringing Leah down here last time to do a writer's retreat. And just again, it's about making a place where new things can happen. Like, I just brought her because I was like, she needs a weekend off. Let's just bring her in. And she ended up making, like, epic bestie lifetime friends with this one lady. And now she's going and staying at the house of another one all weekend. And it's just like, I had no idea that she would have anything in common with, with Jamie or George, whatever. It was just about, like, okay, let's put this Barbie in the box and see what happens. And amazing things happen. And now the kids are getting together to go to the Comic Palooza, and I don't know, like, we might have just started a... Yeah, it's going to be lame. But the other big part was just that Writers in the Field thing I was telling you about at the very beginning. This lady came in the ticket booth at the end, near the end of the day on Saturday, and she was like, blue hair, actually. And she was just like, she's an older lady, she looked ecstatic, and she was like, I just had the best time. And I'm like, great, did you see the blacksmith? Did you see the forensics ladies? Did you get to try on the Victorian corsetry? And she just looked at me, she's like, I parked. and it really me the idea that, like, for her, that was there was a giant muddy field, and she managed to get herself situated, and that felt huge. And it really hammered home for me just how much less angry, less paranoid, less fearful, less nervous, how much more resilient and capable and confident and positive we feel when we feel like we're self-sufficient, or we're capable, and so we feel better and we're not as worried. And so I'm really looking for opportunities to help cultivate that feeling of, you got this, you're totally okay. Weird stuff might happen. The food truck could fall in a ditch. A tornado could come, like all of these things, and you'll still be okay because you've made it through this, so you know you can handle the next thing. So Shannon, I super appreciate you inviting me out to come do this. And the question I wanted to ask you was, aside from what wonderful planet did you come from, was just what are you working on next here that we need to be sharing the word about up north? Are we doing more writers' lunch, or you got
We do
events?
writers' lunch every Thursday.
Okay.
We'll either have a student like you or a different topic. And unfortunately, I don't remember which one is happening next week, so I have failed this chance to promote ourselves. But like Scott did one on heroic protagonists, I'm probably going to do one on terrible antagonists. That might be next week. We've got a couple of things that we could talk about. I'm always looking for people to come speak. Chantel, I'm probably going to talk to you about doing some piece and independent author stuff if you're willing.
Sure.
I'm setting up some more workshops or talks for the evening stuff for this summer. So way in the future, 3 months from now. But I would love, especially knowing a little bit more about your background, I'd love to have you come out and talk to people. So kind of, if you are on Facebook, go ahead and join the Houston Independent Authors group.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not already there, we're also on Meetup. I am in the process of trying to find somebody to make me a website because I'm too busy, but I have not found anybody yet.
I have a guy. I'll send you the info.
Oh, I meant for free. Anyway, so yeah, definitely with HIA, we're just looking to help cultivate that culture for independent authors and make sure that we do have that support system so that we're more successful.
Okay.
If anybody would love to help out, if anybody is interested in attending, we'd love to have you.
We would love to do that.
But I absolutely want to thank you for coming. I mean, you've actually created a foundation in Dallas that is monumental for improving, I don't want to say the lives, but the ability for people who are artistic, who are literary, to know each other, to learn, to feel like there is something that they can do and it matters.
Yeah.
And so I love seeing what is it, the 6 degrees of vegan, what I'll see Amber Helt, who's one of the editors.
Yeah.
She's talking about you, or Shayla's talking about you, and it's so funny. It tickles me so much when I see somebody who I know for a different reason talking about how awesome you are, and it just pleases me so much that she came and talked to her with me. It's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Shannon, thank you. Thanks, y'all. And I would be happy to help shed that love. If you have a business card you want me to have, I will get those on every truck stop bathroom wall between here and Plano on our way home, and we will make you a star.
Already there for me.
Oh, okay. Forget viral marketing, buddy. We're going bacterial.
That's like a paint pen.
Yeah. Well, and seriously, team, let us know what we can be doing to support your efforts too. I want to make.
I really want to come up and do the con in Dallas.
Yeah,
But it's so.
I know.
It's like almost $800.
It
for the
is.
outfits. That's ridiculous.
They did. You know,
Did
my
they
friend.
not have Artist Alley at all?
No, what they didn't have any vendors. They did not do vendors at all. What you could do, if you're interested, they were very generous in letting our.
I'm talking about the Dallas Fan Expo.
Oh, Fan Expo Dallas.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know about them.
Oh,
That's their
okay.
own thing. I thought you meant Inkers Con.
No.
Okay.
Fan Expo.
No, Comic Con does not love you like we love you.
But they get amazing talent to come, and it draws people from all over.
Yeah. We
But
do
it
have.
is expensive to get a booth.
If you want, we do have a private Facebook group. It's called Pros at Cons, and we started it as a way to kind of club together on tables for some of the larger shows. It's mostly science fiction and fantasy authors. We do a lot of fan conventions. So if you want, I don't think it's a secret group. If you find it and then hit the request, and we'll get you in there. Stuart Hardwick was here in Houston. Pros at Cons. Yep.
PROSE.
Nope. PROS. Yep. Yep. And two, let us know when we can drag you up northly. The world needs to smell what you're cooking.
That's the only place in Texas I haven't gone to sell is
If
Dallas.
you ever want to speak at our group, but I'm also the writer's guild in Texas, and I do all the programming.
Okay.
I've already started
On your office page,
If you know the time you're gonna be in
page
those,
for your salon.
So I have, no. I have
Anytime
two
I
different
can
profiles.
there, and one of my besties, I don't know how
And then
still
I'm
writing
on your
corner,
shop
he may or may not be.
But on
able to
each of
do
those
it,
pages,
I know I can always scratch my stuff, so.
profiles.
Yeah. But we could probably do 2 or 3 things while you're up there. You know, make the most out of the trip.
Somebody can
Yeah.
go and they can just like it, and so
We have tons of groups. Yeah.
they can just see updates whenever.
yeah.
Yeah.
Your actual page.
And then share off like the page where you go on and you
Okay.
pick a business
But seriously,
or
dude, my
offer
friend,
your
I mean,
public
it's
figure.
Right.
there's a million writers in the world, but most of them are not. I don't know. I am, and Leah is, in the business of making space for the people who are making space for people, and that is you to a T. So we would really like to help support and recognize the effort that you put into all of this. You don't even have to bring us the crepes. We don't have any,
I
but
bring her.
yeah.
She's very interested.
You could bring this one. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Is that the page? Is that the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. We can charter a bus.
Yeah. We were actually thinking that the writers in the field promotion this year would do we'd have one photo shoot in the monsoon gear, and another one in hazmat suits, and then one that's in desert robes, and then another one.
I will say that there's a video on my phone. I'm pretty sure it's a live photo shoot about 70
But it is still
yards.
connected to my.
It was hard.
And then
I
That's
saw it 'cause I was
awesome.